Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Flow with the Grow podcast. I yet again have another very special guest that joined me for today's episode. This week I have Brandee. Brandee is the owner of Be Collective Wellness, and she is a certified nutrition therapy practitioner. And as we talked about in the episode, she is a diet culture dropout, much like myself, who works virtually with clients located anywhere. She helps clients recognize the power of proper nutrition to support hormones and gut health so they can feel more at home in their bodies without demonizing food or creating unrealistic expectations. I love that she's all about exploring the root cause of symptoms and not just having a Band-Aid approach when it comes to health and wellness. And she really looks at the entire body, entire wellness, mind, body, and soul. She is someone who has had her own hormonal challenges like extensive birth control use, PCOS, and now perimenopause. And for many years, she was out of tune with her body. And by utilizing nutritional therapy techniques, she has been able to reduce symptoms and provide her body with the support it needs. If you would like to connect with Brandee, you can visit her Instagram page, which is Be Collective Wellness, and that's BEE Collective Wellness. And then, like I mentioned earlier, her website, becollectivewellness.com, all of which will be linked in the show notes. If this resonated with you or you think someone would benefit from hearing what Brandee has to share, we would love it if you would share that episode with them and help spread the word. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, for listening. And with that, let's jump right into the episode. Welcome to Flow with the Grow podcast. Super excited to have you.
I am thrilled to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me to connect with your audience.
Heck yes. There's like a kind of a lot that I want to talk about and go over. So I'm really excited. First, go ahead and just share more about who you are, what you do, and also more about why you do what you do.
Okay. So hi guys, I am Brandee. I am a certified nutrition therapy practitioner and I am a self-proclaimed diet culture dropout, just like Sophia, which I love. We have so much in common when it comes to that. But I'm also a huge fan of all things related to gut health and hormone health. So I provide women with support for sustainable holistic nutrition so that they can overcome their symptoms of bloating, fatigue, PMS, irregular menstrual cycles, so that they can really become more in tune with their body and live a very vibrant and energetic life. But it did take me a little bit to get here. It took me a little bit through that diet culture journey to figure out how food and nutrition really played a role in my life. So kind of fast forward, long story short, like I was in traditional healthcare for a total of 14 years, and 12 years into that, I was like, I think this is not my passion anymore. I think I need to be on preventative healthcare instead of kind of this sick care environment that I was working in, and really had learned a lot myself about how food and nutrition affected me, and had really started to learn a lot about hormones, because that was never really talked about in my family growing up. And I had masked my hormones for so many years with hormonal birth control that when I finally connected with my hormones again, I was like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So I just had this huge passion to learn more and dove into this career field of nutrition therapy, went back to school, and have now really made it my life journey to help women feel empowered with their bodies and really understand what's happening with their hormones and the messages their body is giving them.
Wow. Okay. So I had like 5 questions come to my mind there. But first, okay. So you said nutrition therapy. What is there, like, do you go to school specifically for that? Cause like I'm a certified nutrition coach, but what's the difference from that to like nutrition therapy?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different titles out there, right? So I'm a certified nutrition therapy practitioner. So I'm really looking at the ways that we can use food to really target maybe different things that are happening in the body. So specifically when we're looking at gut health, right? So there can be different foods that are maybe triggering an imbalance in the gut, or there can be different foods that can be really used to help nourish and heal the gut and what's going on in there. So we're using food kind of as that therapy to really get the body back into balance and really be optimal.
I love that. Okay. I like that. It's therapy, using food as therapy to heal the body.
Yep.
Yes, it makes sense. I've never heard that. I've just never heard it spoken in that way before. So that's really cool. So, okay, quickly, let's go back to, because you said you used to work in healthcare and then you switched to what you're doing now. And I guess I don't know really what the question specifically is, but like, I've just heard of a lot of people going from like that type of healthcare into more like holistic health. What are some of like maybe the main differences, but also things that maybe frustrated you or frustrates you now about healthcare versus holistic healthcare?
Yeah. So, I was in healthcare for 12 years before I was like, I think I want to go back to school. So I had a career for 14 years as an interventional radiology tech. And a couple of years before that, I was just a radiology tech. And I don't mean just for all my radiology tech friends out there, you are very important. But 12 years or 14 years total as an interventional radiology tech. And I was assisting my radiologist to do minor surgical procedures that utilize X-ray, ultrasound, or CAT scan guidance. And what I really started to notice with that, so when I started that journey with interventional radiology, I worked at a children's hospital. So there wasn't so much the diet and lifestyle aspects to affecting health with those kiddos. But then when I shifted into the adult world, I was like, oh, wow, like a lot of these things are influenced by diet and lifestyle. And is anybody having that conversation? And it got really frustrating when we would have the same patients coming back over and over and over again. And what we were doing was very important and very valuable to their life and their progress with health. But I didn't feel like there was that education piece around how if we just make a few tweaks to diet and lifestyle, we can like really expand your results and outcome from the things that we are doing with our procedures that we were doing. So I really got a little bit curious and had to challenge my beliefs around what my role was and how traditional healthcare was being utilized in our society. So that was like, okay, this is where I can make a big shift and where I can make a big difference and help people understand that we can really improve their overall health status by diet, lifestyle, environment, all those things. Mindset can really play a big, big role in that.
And talking about hormones, you had said that you weren't really taught that growing up. And I wasn't either, like not like hormones, but also like with our cycles and things like that. We'll get to that. But what are like the main hormones that you talk about with people or that you see maybe show up a lot with trying to like help through food and nutrition?
Yeah. So I, like you, I grew up in the Midwest. I'm originally from Iowa. And I don't know if it was just a thing in Iowa or if it was just everybody that grew up in the like 90s as I did when I was going through all the changes happening in my body. But it was just like not talked about as to like women bleeding every month and what's normal, what's not. And there was such a Band-Aid approach to being addressing anything that was happening with our hormones, where it was like, here, just take this pill and you'll be fine. So it became even more disconnected from hormones. So what I really work with my clients on is like, let's get the basic understanding of the menstrual cycle. There's 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, and all of those phases are triggered or kicked off by a different event that is happening due to the shifts in your hormones. So those phases are the menstruation, the follicular phase, ovulation, and the luteal phase. And each of those phases, well, I should say this, like rewind a little bit. Every single day, our hormones are shifting a little bit throughout our whole menstrual cycle. So your menstrual cycle is from day 1 is the very first day that you bleed, all the way until the day before you bleed again. That starts a new cycle. So every single day, our hormones are shifting just a little bit So today, your hormones are going to look different than if we tested them tomorrow. So the day in which testing is occurring is really important as well, depending on what you're looking for, if you're testing your hormones. But the reason why this is important as well is females cycle every 25 to 35-ish days. It's kind of the normal average menstrual cycle length. Males, on the other hand, they cycle every 24 hours. So each morning they wake up with fresh new hormones. We do that over a 25 to 35 day cycle. So to get on a little bit of a soapbox here, women are not just small versions of men. We are completely different. And so when we're thinking about diet, nutrition, lifestyle things, we can't have the same approach as guys do. We're completely different.
I've been telling people that recently, some of my clients and stuff.
Yes. And, so my basic thing that I do with my clients is like, let's get a basic understanding of the menstrual cycle to begin with, and noticing the changes that happen to your body throughout your cycle. So, as estrogen is rising in the follicular phase, you're probably going to feel a lot more energized. This is kind of when our masculine energy kind of comes out more, is in the follicular phase. So after we're done bleeding, the rise of estrogen that is occurring as a new egg or follicle is being stimulated is really kind of driving us to be like really motivated, really like energetic. We can feel like we have more energy to do different workouts at this time. And that's all leading up to ovulation. So with ovulation, it technically is a one-day event, but there's kind of process leading up to it. And then afterwards, there's kind of like a 5 to 7 day window in which we call kind of that ovulatory phase. And during that time, we can really feel energized. We can really be excited to do more group activities, hang out with more people, do workouts that are maybe more HIIT focused, really look at that strength training, try new classes, because we have now progesterone on board. Whereas before it was only estrogen. So now with progesterone and estrogen here, we can really take advantage of that during the first part of that, the ovulatory phase, and also the first half of the luteal phase. So about 7 days, 5 to 7 days after ovulation, that's kind of when we peak in that luteal phase. And that's if implantation of a fertilized egg does not occur, then our hormone levels start to decline. So as we enter that second half of the luteal phase, that's where we maybe don't feel as energetic as before, where we can kind of dial back and be like, hey, look, maybe I'm not going to lift as heavy today. Maybe I'm going to do more restorative type movement instead of more intense movement, as we lead up then to our actual period that comes. And that's happening because both progesterone and estrogen have declined. We have no hormones left, so you can really feel tired and I want to feel like isolating at that time, want to kind of cocoon at home. And then, then menstruation starts again. So it's this finely orchestrated symphony of hormones that is happening during that time.
It's all so fascinating to me because I, like you said, for yourself, like it wasn't taught, like that stuff wasn't taught at all. So I remember a friend sent me a podcast and just information about it. And I'm like, holy cow, like this makes so much sense. And also it was so validating because sometimes of the month, I'm just like, I feel like the world's on top of me. I just don't want to do anything. I'm just like low energy. And I feel like self-doubt, like that always creeps in a little bit more. But then there's times where I'm like, high energy, let's get shit done, like super, so it's also validating that like, okay, I'm not crazy. It's not like, like that's a thing, like physically with our bodies, that's a thing. You had mentioned how we're not, I don't know the words you use, but like not like mini men, like we're not just like whatever. Yeah. So can you explain that a little bit more? So if anyone's listening, they understand exactly like why that's important with like, if someone's goal is like to lose body fat or, overall health, I guess too, but.
Yeah. It's just basically like with the hormonal shifts that we have every single day. If we look back at different studies that are done on different dietary, maybe what word am I looking for? I don't want to say fads, fads, but dietary approaches, let's say like either keto or intermittent fasting or whatever. If we look at the studies that are done on those are done on men and postmenopausal women because they don't have those hormonal fluctuations. As cycling women, we have those fluctuations. So we kind of can skew their data a little bit unless they're literally tracking like, okay, these women are all on day 1. These women are all on now day 7, like looking at that. But even if my day 7 could look very different than your day 7, because my hormones could be at a different point than yours, depending on my overall hormonal fluctuations that are happening. And some women have a very consistent, like 28-day cycle every month, whereas some other women might fluctuate a little bit and have maybe a 26-day cycle this month and a 32-day cycle the next month. So to say that like our hormones are the exact same each cycle is not true either. So all I say, why are we not little mini versions of men running around there? Hormones. And with these hormones too, I think it's important to recognize that in the luteal phase, when progesterone is finally on board and it's our feel-good hormone, and for us perimenopausal women, it's the first hormone to kind of tank when we first start entering perimenopause. But that progesterone is actually thermogenic. So during that luteal phase, you are going to be hungrier because your basal metabolic rate is increasing because our body temperature increased. And so you're going to require an extra 250 to 500 calories during that luteal phase. So if you're like, I'm hungry before your period, yes, because you have more hormones and you're burning your calories faster. So you should never really gauge yourself. I know so many women are like, I shouldn't eat the same, or I should eat less than my partner, my male partner, or my male friends. That's not true. We have to really dial into what our body is specifically telling us and what we need.
And so when you said that, like in the luteal phase, we are hungrier, so we need more food and calories. Is that for everyone, or was that just perimenopausal?
That's for everyone. Everybody has the progesterone. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Perimenopause is a whole nother like kettle of fish. And, I mean, it's to briefly touch on it. It's like the 2 to 12 years before menopause actually sets in, when we don't have a menstrual cycle anymore. So it can be a good decade in which we could have a little bit of hormonal chaos going on. And so that's seems to be a lot of the women that I'm working with right now. And it's, I'm going through perimenopause too. And how long will I be in this stage? Who knows? But there's really nutritional and supplements that we can do to support that, plus lifestyle. Again, that movement piece and like dialing into our cycle and not pushing our bodies too much.
Yes. Okay. And I love how, like, even just talking to you, it feels like I feel empowered with my cycle now. Whereas a lot of women are like, oh, I hate hormones. I hate my period. I hate blah, blah, blah. But like, I mean, we need it. And it's a part of like life. It's part of our bodies. But like, you make it sound like it's like we should like elevate it and empower it through like nutrition and working with it.
Yeah. And I would love if we could speak more freely about our periods and our menstrual cycle and not have to, I mean, gosh, for years, it was always hide the tampon in the sleeve of my sweatshirt to like, don't want anybody to know that I'm on my period right now. Like, why do we do that?
That's so true. Even like recently, I'm like, okay, try and hide it. But then like lately, I've also been like, no, like, I don't care. Like, it's just what happens. But that's so true. Yeah. We would like try and hide it. Like, it's something to be ashamed of.
Yeah. It's been so taboo in our culture that, oh my God, women bleed every month. Yeah, we do.
Do you, for each phase, have like specific foods that you encourage your clients to eat? Or is it really dependent upon like how they're feeling?
Yeah, so there are different foods that we can incorporate during the different phases that can really help support the hormones that are more prevalent during those phases. And I find that for most women, we are struggling in the luteal phase, when that's when we can have more PMS symptoms arising because maybe we don't have as much progesterone on board because either poor ovulation or we're just in an estrogen excess, kind of estrogen dominant state. due to a variety of things. But during the luteal phase, especially, cruciferous veggies are super important. Getting enough fiber, super important, because the way that we're going to eliminate our extra hormones is through our fecal material. So we need to get rid of those. And that's when gut health really comes into play here too. Like making sure the gut is in a good spot so that we can eliminate properly, but also absorb the nutrients in our food properly too. So when I start out with my clients, we are really kind of zooming out as to what are the symptoms that they're experiencing. And then we also utilize some functional lab tests. So I usually focus on gut health first, because we have to think about our kind of different systems. They do kind of get prioritized here. So on the foundation of that is going to be your gut health and blood sugar balance. Those two we have to really focus on first if we want to have our hormones be on board for reproduction purposes, or even just to maintain life. Like even if your goal is not to have babies, you still need your hormones to be working well for you. So we can't kind of cherry pick from the top if we have a unstable foundation. And then also addressing, stress and how are our adrenal glands? What's the health of those adrenal glands? If they're feeling stressed out, our reproductive hormones are going to not be prioritized, and we're going to have kind of wonky cycles or absent cycles.
And so I was just thinking about this because you said stress, and I talked to a lot of people at, just people in general, but also the gym that I work at. Stress is like a big thing I think for everyone, but it's just come up a lot lately, how much stress really affects. And it's almost like when you're in it, you don't see or feel how it's affecting your body, and like maybe ability to lose weight or ability to like feel better or whatever, and like doing things to help with that. But yeah, I just think it's really important. And other than like nutrition wise, what are some things stress wise that you encourage people to do when it comes to like minimizing or like reducing stress?
Well, one of the biggest things is take a breath. So many of us are like holding our breath all day, and we're running from activity to activity, and we're just feeling super burned out and stressed out. And oh my gosh, there's so many deadlines, and we aren't sending that signal of safety to our body at all. But if we can take a deep breath, like in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, then we start stimulating that vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is going to run from the brain all the way through the body. And so what's happening is this huge communication pathway. And we stimulate the vagus nerve, then we are putting ourselves back into that parasympathetic state instead of the sympathetic state where we're in this like fight or flight situation. So when we're in that fight or flight situation, the body is just trying to prepare to run from whatever the threat is to the body. It doesn't realize, our brains are super primal. It doesn't realize that, hey, maybe I'm stressed out because things are going on with my kid's life, or my coworker kind of sucks right now, or I have this impending deadline, or I'm dealing with gut imbalances, or whatever. I'm actually being chased by a bear. The body can't differentiate between that. It just is receiving a signal of stress. And so it's continuing to pump out the cortisol for that fight or flight, for let's go, let's run. We need to get out of this situation. And so what's getting put on the back burner are our hormones and our proper digestion. If we're eating in a stressed out state, the body is not producing your gastric juices that you need to properly digest food. We're not absorbing our nutrients from our food appropriately, and it all can kind of get hindered in that process.
And also, so when you, so 2 questions came to mind, but first, gut health. Can you explain, like, because I know I've read and heard things about how like our gut is our second brain, basically. Can you explain that a little bit and like what's going on?
Yeah. So there's that vagus nerve that is going to connect the brain and the gut. And, there's so much that happens in the gut. That's where our immune system mainly lives, and our neurotransmitters like our serotonin and our dopamine, those are influenced and created there. And if we have imbalances happening in the gut, those bacteria have been shown that they can travel up via the vagus nerve, and there can be communication happening there. So like let's say that you're really anxious or nervous about something coming up, and then you end up having looser stools, right? Kind of the pathway there. Your gut and your brain are connected right now. So there's huge connection there. And there's still so much more emerging like data around it, and how the gut is really our second brain. And it's just so impacted by how are we feeling our gut is how we're going to feel our brain and our body.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then it goes back to hormones, supporting our hormones through food, reducing stress, all those things. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you ever have people like, how do I want to ask this? So, I mean, I have people that come to me and they're like, I want to lose weight. And I'm like, well, let's not step on the scale. I'm just I'm just not about the scale. I don't like it. And most of the people know that. Yes. So when you get someone that comes in, like they want to lose weight, they step on the scale, but also like it sounds like you're more so focusing on nutrition and food and hormones and things like that. So how do you help someone to like realize that that's not important, and to just try not to, I guess, like focus on that? And also I was thinking about this because with our cycles, like men can weigh themselves every single day, but like, and they can compare it day to day, but women, like we can't really compare it day to day then. Like it's more so like within our cycles, month to month that way. So yeah.
So the number one piece of advice I give my clients is put the scale in the trunk of your car, somewhere where it's out of sight, out of mind. And you would have to take time between the thought of like, I'm going to step on the scale to actually get there and like actually talk yourself out of it. Because this is really a good idea to use the scale. Like, what is the intention? What is the purpose? What is that number going to prove? I feel like so many people are using the number on the scale just like the stupid magic 8-ball when we were kids, right? Like, am I going to have a good day or not? I step on the scale. Oh shit, the scale went up and I'm going to have a bad day. Like, no, we can't let that number determine how we're going to feel. We have to really dial into like, how do I feel in my body? So we remove the scale. I ask clients to put it away, out of sight, out of mind, to break that habit of getting on it every morning. And then when we do bring the scale back in, I really make sure that my clients are in the right mindset, and that this number is just a number. This doesn't influence who you are as a person. It doesn't influence how your day is going to go. You know, we don't want to use like the scale went up and so now I have permission to eat whatever I want. And we don't want to use the scale as the scale went down and now I have permission to eat whatever I want too, right? There's a little self-sabotage that can happen there. So when we really walk through this self-guided journey of like, recognizing our body, the signals our body is giving us, and loving our body as it is, which can be hard because sometimes we can feel like, if I love my body as it is, am I not allowed? Does that mean that I'm not going to keep trying to achieve my goals? And does that mean that I'm complacent? And that doesn't, not at all. Like, we really have to reframe the mindset there. So if weight loss is your goal, we first have to understand the things that are influencing weight: stress, hormones, gut health, blood sugar imbalance. If those are not optimal, then we will never see that scale move in an appropriate way. So, and plus going through like even a gut healing protocol, sometimes you might gain a little bit of weight while we're working on the body. But we all have to work on sending those signals of safety to the body. Does the body know that it's safe and it's okay to lose weight? Are we telling it that, hey, I love you and you look really good today, and it's okay if you decide to transform? Like, I'm going to love you on this whole journey. And I love you for even the things that I did to you in the past. That was a big thing, the conversation I had with a client the other day. She's like, I keep apologizing to my body for what I did in the past. I'm like, I don't think that's necessary. I think that's almost sending the wrong signal. I think it's okay to be like, hey, listen, I love you and we're going to go on a new journey. We're going to transform in a different way. I'm going to treat you a little bit different.
I just got so many goosebumps from everything you just said. Like, yeah. Wow. I just feel like so many people need to hear that. And because you said that you make sure that your client is in the right like mindset space. How do you know that they're in the right mindset? Do you ask them questions to kind of see like how do you know for sure that they are ready to do that?
Yeah. So, we are really recognizing different patterns, stories. Diet culture has given us so many stories.
Yep.
So have we been able to rewrite those stories? Are they still being triggered or influenced by diet culture or old stories that will creep in? With every expansion, we do have a little bit of retraction too. Every time we expand and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm in such a better place, we might accidentally retract a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But what I always tell my clients too is like, you're not going to retract as far back as you went before. And you have this foundation now. We're building a stronger foundation every time that, okay, let's say that, I don't know, you did get on the scale and you beat yourself up and you decided to have donuts all day. Okay, we're going to release that. No shame, no story attached to it. No need to feel guilt around it. So we're really rewiring the brain a ton and talking about how they're utilizing food. Are we searching out some type of like core need through food? And are there other ways that maybe we can do that? Maybe we really do need to call a friend, or maybe we really do need to, if we're bored, maybe we need to find something else to do. Maybe you really are hungry. Maybe you're underfueling your body, and we need to make sure that you're eating enough throughout the day so that in the evening time when maybe the snackies hit, maybe they won't be as strong. Or maybe you will have an alternative thing to do because you're bored. So maybe instead of being bored and going to the pantry again, maybe you're going and grabbing a book and reading that for a little bit and then seeing, hey, am I really hungry? Maybe I need to eat a snack.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I want to go into PCOS, but also belly bloat, like belly bloat. Cause I feel like that's a term that's like kind of gets thrown around too. Like I need to get rid of this bloat, or like, so like if someone's thinking, yeah, I have belly bloat that I need to get rid of, what is it? I mean, it's probably hormone based, right? But like, or what?
Gut health based.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So then that point, you probably like do more like work with a nutrition to help. And do people just normally like after you do that, that kind of goes away?
Yeah. So what I'm really looking at when we're looking at bloating, I have tons of questions when I talk to my clients, and I always do free consultations too to understand like where they're at, what journey they've gone on so far, and then I offer my insight in things that maybe I am seeing that maybe is a correlation or a pattern. So with bloating, is it happening all day long? Is it from the moment you wake up until you go to bed? Do you feel bloated? Or is it only happening after you eat meals? Does it happen when you eat specific meals? Are there times during your cycle? If we're looking at cycles, is there times during your menstrual cycle that you feel more bloated than other times? Is there like different food or drink that are affecting it? There's so many things when it comes to bloating that it is hard to be like, it's this direct thing. We can't always just guess, but there's a ton of different questions that go into it. And that's why I also use functional lab testing. Like comprehensive stool panel tells us a lot about the gut microbiome. So I like to use a test called the GI map. And it's telling us about the DNA of the microbes that are living in the belly. Like, is there a parasite? Is there an overgrowth of bacteria? Is candida an issue? Are we dealing with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth? Like all of those things can cause bloating. And so we just don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall. That's not my approach. I'm more of a test, don't guess type person. Let's get some concrete data that we can use as a roadmap on our journey together to see, okay, here's a targeted approach that we can do. And what I love too about working one-on-one with clients is that we can pivot. So it's like, oh, this isn't working. And I'm sure you see that a lot with the clients that you worked with too. Like, this doesn't seem to be working as well for your body. So we can pivot and we can try a different approach or utilize something different that maybe does agree with your body more. And it's always a collaboration, right? It's not just my way or your way, but we
Right.
collaborate a lot with our clients to be like, how can we do this together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always like one of my big things is like being able to like give them like autonomy too and like decisions. So like instead of being like, this is the one way, this is the way we're doing it, let's like having that conversation of like, what do you think about that? Or what do you think would be best? Or, you know, and just like giving them the option to like decide, make that decision for themselves too.
Yeah.
And I've had people be like thankful for that because it wasn't me pushing something on them. They were ready to start something when they were ready to like move forward with it.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, to try different things and stuff. So PCOS, do you have clients that have PCOS and you work with them? Okay. I'm super curious to know more. Like I know some here and there, and I've worked with a couple people, but yeah, I would just like to know more about like the ways that you work with people and how you've helped them.
Yeah. So PCOS, also known as polycystic ovarian syndrome, is really an inflammatory process of the endocrine system. So it's going to affect hormones, it's going to affect the reproductive organs, and it also does affect our metabolic function. So characteristically with PCOS, we're dealing with probably likely some insulin resistance and altered androgens or testosterone. And sometimes, not always, you can have cysts on your ovaries. So there's kind of 3 criteria when it comes to PCOS: high androgens, irregular cycles, or not having a menstrual cycle at all, and cysts on your ovaries. Did I say that already? Cysts on your ovaries, high testosterone, and irregular cycles or no cycles at all. And so that's kind of the basis when it comes to getting a PCOS diagnosis. I don't diagnose in the work that I do, but you can go to, like, if we are suspecting some PCOS going on with you, we can take that information to your primary care physician and they can do further testing with that. But with PCOS, again, you need like 2 of those 3 to kind of check those boxes. And I found out at the age of 38 that I have PCOS. And I didn't know for so many years because I was so disconnected from my body for so many years. I was on hormonal birth control for 17 years. And unfortunately, that is kind of the approach that traditional medicine will usually push women down when they are having irregular menstrual cycles. And they'll tell them, we need to regulate your cycle with hormonal birth control. But that's not regulating anything at all. It's kind of masking all the symptoms. It's a Band-Aid approach. Hormonal birth control is, synthetic hormones, and our body doesn't quite know what to do with those, but it's shutting down the communication between our pituitary gland and our ovaries. So the body doesn't have to create these hormones anymore. So it almost is mimicking like menopause when you're on hormonal birth control, because we're shutting down that ovulation. So with PCOS, one of the biggest things with that is really understanding blood sugar. And insulin resistance is really common with PCOS because testosterone and insulin have a very cyclical relationship, meaning that as testosterone elevates, insulin elevates. As insulin elevates, testosterone elevates. So they continue to rise and rise and rise and rise. And so then we can get into this androgen excess type state where, some of the symptoms of having androgen excess can be weight gain, for sure, difficulty losing weight, facial hair, baldness. Those are some pretty typical signs when we're dealing with androgen excess. So when I'm working with women who do have PCOS, who know they have PCOS, or we're suspecting PCOS, we're really looking at that blood sugar piece. And this is like a huge focus of mine right now for me personally too, because I am realizing more and more how much stress is affecting blood sugar, but then also I tend to be in a testosterone excess type state as well. So how am I going to support my body and my blood sugar to bring those down? When we're dealing with PCOS, what happens often is that our ovulatory, our ability to ovulate is hindered because of the imbalances, the excess insulin, the excess testosterone. Sometimes it can be estrogen dominant, or it can be not enough estrogen as well. So these follicles aren't getting stimulated, or multiple are getting stimulated, but none are getting stimulated enough to actually have ovulation occur. So again, diet has a big big role in this. And unfortunately, so many women who are dealing with PCOS are told by their general practitioner to lose weight, eat less, and exercise more. And that's such an insensitive approach.
That sounds like it's the opposite of what people should be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes. As you and I both know too, like if we're restricting calories so much in a chronic restricted state, our metabolism is going to slow down and it's not going to burn. It's going to just say, hey, we don't know when we're going to get more fuel sources. So we're just going to store and store and store because, again, our brains are super primal and it thinks that we're hunting and gathering for our food, not that we can go to our refrigerator and get whatever we want to eat out of it. So we can't go in a chronic restricted state for longer than 3 months. And so many women are running around out there on 1,200 calorie diets. And years. They don't have any energy left. And so, these poor, women with PCOS are told all the time, eat less, eat less, eat less, exercise more and more and more. And they're just stressing out their body even more.
Yeah. When it comes to like exercise with PCOS, what do you tell your clients to do? Because I'm not like them doing more, obviously, but like strength wise versus the cardio aspect. Like what do you have them do?
Yeah, strength training, 100%. So good. We want to work those muscles to the point of fatigue in a strength way, in a not HIIT way.
Right.
HIIT
yes.
in PCOS isn't necessarily the greatest combination unless you're like in your follicular phase and you're like feel really good and energetic. But the more that we can utilize strength training, that improves our insulin sensitivity. There was a training I was on recently, and even one session of strength training can improve your insulin sensitivity like 60% or something like that, because our muscles really are going to utilize that excess glucose that we might be having floating around, which raises in our insulin. So strength training, definitely for PCOS. And let's not undervalue the power of a walking.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Walking is so beneficial. We don't need to run everywhere. We can walk. Even walking like 2 to 3 minutes after a meal can improve your insulin sensitivity as well, because your body is utilizing that glucose instead of storing that glucose.
Wow. Yep. Yeah. I mean, for a long time when I was in my like phase, I would say of like do hard, intense workouts, eat less, like, and that I was like, no, walk doesn't do anything. Like, I'm not going to do that. But like walking is like one of the best forms of like cardio. And it's like, you're getting so much more than just that. And I just think that because people are always like, they do undervalue it or say it's not doing much or whatever, but really like it's like one of the best things that you can do.
Yeah, I hear you with that too. I used to, as a former half marathon runner, I was like, walking? No, that's not an exercise. I need to work out for at least 45 minutes to an hour in order to have an effective exercise. And that's such a diet culture influence there.
Yes, it is for sure. Oh my gosh. Yep. 100%. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. So I work with people who we track macros, but also it's more of an intuitive approach, just so they're aware of like how much they're eating, especially with protein, making sure they're getting enough protein, making sure they're getting enough carbs, but also like it depends on the person. Like if someone doesn't have a good relationship with food, like I'm not going to start them with macros right away. Like it's more so about what they're eating, healthful foods, things like that. What is your like opinion or like thoughts around macros and things like that? And also too, I want to add, because within the flexible dieting world and like bodybuilding, it's a lot of if it fits your macros, but then like I tell people, okay, well, we can hit macros by eating a bunch of donuts all day, but we don't want to do that. It's just having like a balance. Like, yes, it gives us flexibility and it can help with like not being in, in that restrictive mode or whatever. But yeah, my thoughts on that has changed over time, but I'm just curious to know like what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I do have my clients fill out a 4-day food journal for me, and I do provide them with a diet analysis. So let's look at what you're currently eating and are there any deficiencies that your body maybe is lacking? Then I'm also educating people on what are macronutrients, why they all are really important. We don't want to underconsume or overconsume macronutrients, right? We want to find a balance. So I do provide 5-day meal plans for my clients that they can use for inspiration and understand, like, what should a plate look like? Do we have fats, carbs, and proteins on your plate every time? Do we have are we pairing our carbohydrates with a fat or protein for snacks? Because we don't really want to eat naked carbs.
Right.
Put clothes on your carbs, please. And then
Clothes on your
after
carbs.
that,
Did you say that? Clothes on your
put
love
clothes
that.
on your carbs. Yep. No naked carbs. They need
Love
to have
that.
some clothes. So that's kind of the extent I do for macros with my clients. And then we're just really talking about, again, every time, like, how we're fueling our body with the different macronutrients going to affect our blood sugar or affect our hormones. Protein is the most under-eaten macronutrient that I see with women. Like, please eat more protein, please. And it doesn't, we have to think about non-traditional forms of protein too. Yogurt, Greek yogurt is a phenomenal form of protein for some of my clients that are like maybe not as big of meat eaters. Can we do some dairy? What about eggs? Those are all really important. So then calorie wise, I don't have my clients track calories either, but on their diet analysis, we are talking about, hey, here are the calories, the amount of calories your body is going to need. Mm-hmm. And this is really important. Your body needs fuel. Calories are a unit of energy, the end. Yeah. But as you mentioned before, not all calories are created equal. So the information available in, let's say, donuts, the nutritional information in there is very different than the information in, let's say, strawberries. Very different nutritional densities. And so your body takes that information and then utilizes it. So if we're fueling up with just donuts because it fits my macros and it fits the calories I have left over, our body's not going to be able to perform very optimally. You're going to kind of suffer in the gym. You're probably going to suffer with your work, and your energy levels throughout the day could have sugar crashes. Like, all of that plays a role in the quality of the food that we're eating.
Yep. There's so many similarities to how we like coach and help people, and I love it. Yep. So awesome to meet other people that are doing that too. What's like your favorite, like what are you most passionate about when it comes to like helping people or like teaching someone on? Like, is it hormones, gut health, PCOS, cycles? Like, what aspect, I guess, of like woman hormonal health is your favorite? Would you say?
What was my favorite? I think the one that is the most tangible for a lot of my clients is improving their gut health, because they see a reduction in their symptoms. And we have celebrations when clients tell me, oh my gosh, I'm pooping twice a day. And it's like, yeah, it's a huge win. We're going to celebrate because you should be pooping at least once a day, ideally 2 to 3 times a day. So if we're not, the longer that material, the waste is sitting in us, the more our body could reabsorb it and can recirculate. And then we're just kind of pretty toxic, right? Because we're supposed to eliminate our toxins and our waste in our fecal material. So anyway, having them feel wins with how their body feels, definitely, because we don't want to use the scale. The scale is not a barometer for success. It doesn't know the transformation that the body is going through. It doesn't know the state of the gut. It doesn't know the mental, like where you're at mentally with your relationship of food. But yeah, and then when clients are telling me, that they're sleeping through the night because we've worked on their blood sugar and we've improved their hormones, like I just really love all aspects of it. I really love seeing my clients thrive in their relationship with food. When they tell me it was the holidays and I didn't have any shame or guilt around the foods I ate, or it's the start of a new year and I didn't feel compelled to start like another diet on January 1st. And I was like, nope, that's not me anymore. I don't have that relationship where I feel like I need to jump on these kind of times of the year when people are promoting more weight loss. By the way, you do not need to lose weight to have a summer body. You have a body and it's ready for summer right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes, so true. And so I have someone who she goes to the gym that I work at or train at, and she just told me recently that she has not pooped in years. Like it's like a thing for her that ever since she was, maybe she has here and there, but like it's like a thing for her where ever since she was younger and maybe the doctors, I don't know, has like done a bunch of like tests or whatever, and she can't figure it out. So I'm gonna tell her to come talk to you, and hopefully she does. I don't know if she will.
We're gonna get her pooping.
I mean, I feel like she probably feels like it's a lost cause at this point. But I'm just like, no, nothing's ever a lost cause when it comes to like health in our bodies. Like there's something that we can do.
Yep.
Heal and help. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yep. Curious to know, how did you come up with your name? Your like not your name, but like your business name.
So a lot of my friends call me B. But when initially it was just the letter B, right? But then when I met my husband, he called me B with 2 E's. So BEE, because my name is Brandee with 2 E's. So B, Collective Wellness, is for me. And then Collective Wellness is because health and wellness is not just one bucket, right? It's not just nutrition. It's not just movement. It's not just your mindset. It's all of those things together. So we need to have a collective approach to our health and wellness.
Love that.
Thank you.
Yes, love it. And you've like had this as your business for how long now?
4 years.
Oh, 4 years. Okay, cool. And do you foresee yourself like doing it for the rest of your life? Is there any up and coming things like within your business that you're going to implement and do?
Yeah. So I'm thinking of some more kind of mini courses or courses that people can do on their own. But also, I'm just launching a twice a month Ask Me Anything webinar where people can register, hop on Zoom, and literally have like mini consultations live where you can ask me questions like, I haven't pooped in 5 days. What do you think is going on? I'll ask you more questions. I'll give you some resources and maybe some ways that I could also support you if you're interested in that. But like giving you some straightforward, no bullshit, no diet culture answers. So different things that you might be feeling or that you're spending all the time Googling on the internet or you're chatting with your girlfriends about, and everybody's like, I don't know, I have that too. Is that normal? I don't know, right? Like, let's kind of get some of that out, and you can come and learn from everybody else, even if you don't have a question. If you are feeling a little hesitant to share your question publicly, you can always email me and I'll keep your identity private so that you don't have to be like called out in front of everybody too.
Yes. Awesome. So, okay, we'll wrap this up here. I have a couple other questions, but since we just talked about that, where can someone go to sign up for that?
Yeah, so you can head to my website, becollectivewellness.com, and that's BEE collectivewellness.com. And on there, under the work with me, you can drop down and you will find the webinar. It's called the Hive Collective. Because we're all going to be a hive. We're all going to be there as a collective, supporting each other. You can chat in the Zoom and be like, me too. I feel the same way. I'm dealing with that too. So you can register there. And yeah, you can also check me out on Instagram. I'm also Be Collective Wellness on Instagram, and that will provide you with a link to where you can sign up for that as well.
Awesome. I will definitely link all of that in the show notes. Is there anything that you weren't asked, but that you want to share? Or if there was like one thing that you would want someone to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I would say, you know your body better than anybody else. So if you feel like something is not right in your body, you definitely need to advocate for yourself. Gaslighting women's health concerns is a huge, huge issue. And so many women feel like they've been dismissed and blown off or told that that's normal. You're getting older. Here's your only option to fix that. And it's going to be a prescription that you're not sure you want to go down that road on. You can fire your doctor. You can find a new doctor or find another type of provider that can help explain things to you and understand help you understand what maybe is going on with your body. You definitely have to advocate for yourself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think that is such a problem. Like with like modern medicine and traditional, it's just like telling people that, yeah, like things are normal. Oh, you know what? Okay. So for two things. So first of all, I hate when people say, "Oh, I'm just getting old." I can't stand I can't stand that. When I was younger, I was on birth control, and I think I wasn't on it, and then I started it, and this is maybe going to be some TMI, but I don't really give a shit. So
Never.
I was having like discharge, like not discharge. No. It was just like wetness. Like I would have like tampon in, and it would just be like, it would just like bleed through, but it wasn't blood. And I told my doctor that, and she could not figure out. She like grabbed a book, tried to look it up. And then she's like, well, we're just gonna change your birth control. And I think maybe it was one that had more progesterone or less, something with like one of those hormones. It just got kept, but something did not feel right to me. Like I was like having this gut feeling like you just need to get off birth control, or like this isn't right. Like you shouldn't, I just have to change up. I just knew that something was like off. And this was like right before I started learning more about like things. But has this ever come up for you? Like, what do you think that is? Well, it doesn't happen anymore. Maybe like a little bit, but not near as much.
Right. So we do have cervical mucus that changes throughout our menstrual cycle.
Yes.
And so many times, like as youth, we probably thought, oh, something's going on with me, and like I have a yeast infection or something's going on. So cervical mucus or vaginal discharge is normal as long as it's not smelly or discolored, like grayish or greenish or anything like that. So as we approach ovulation, our cervical mucus is going to become more viscous. It's going to, or less viscous, more or less.
What's viscous?
Our cervical mucus, like thickness.
Oh, okay.
So let's say as we approach ovulation, our cervical mucus is going to become more slippery, more egg white consistency, clear, stretchy, because that's our fertile window. So the cervical mucus changes to be a more hospitable, make the vagina a more hospitable environment for sperm to live in. And sperm can live up in your vaginal canal for up to 5 days, which is really important to know if you are trying to conceive or trying to avoid pregnancy, that there is a 6-day window in which pregnancy can occur, because ovulation is a 1-day event, but sperm can live up to 5 days in a favorable environment. So our cervical mucus is changing throughout our cycle, and during ovulation, you might find that you have more cervical mucus, and it might be more that egg white, slippery texture. Whereas right after a menstrual cycle, it might not be present at all, or it could be a little bit more thicker, maybe more lotiony, a little bit tacky or sticky. And then after ovulation, when we're in our luteal phase, it might not be present at all, or it can be really thick and kind of sticky and tacky. So those sticky, tacky, lotiony, those are not fertile mucus. That doesn't promote necessarily a environment that is hospitable for sperm to live in. Whereas in that fertile window, when you're kind of ovulating, that can be a sign that ovulation is occurring. And cervical mucus is driven by estrogen. So estrogen drives the production of that and helps with the changes of the cervical mucus throughout your cycle.
Okay. So that was cervical mucus, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like mind-boggling that never even be like, oh, that's probably cervical mucus. Like,
right. We just want to make sure it's not like funky smelling. Where it's like fishy, like a very strong odor, because we are going to have a little bit of a smell to it, right? And if you dial into your own personal body, you're going to recognize as hormonals or as a hormone shift, it can smell a little different as the viscosity of it changes too.
Yep, very true. So wrapping this up, last few questions here. First one. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received is to stop running, because my adrenals were taking a beating, and to start strength training, because I really needed to work on improving my insulin sensitivity.
And what's been the worst advice you've ever received?
That the Mirena IUD was the best option for me. And instead of exploring other forms of birth control, like the copper IUD, they just tried to scare the pants off you with the copper IUD. Not that the copper IUD doesn't come without issues as well. And it can, there's been some studies saying that it can influence hormones, even though it's not hormonal based. But giving me the education and resources for like, hey, barrier methods are very effective at birth control as well. And maybe exploring the root cause of my symptoms related to my hormones would have been more beneficial than putting a Band-Aid approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hate the Band-Aid approach.
Yes.
Third question, what would be like your favorite? It could be like a book or an audio or maybe like a person that you follow, like just, one of those kind of like personal development or maybe nutrition, whatever. One of your favorites.
So I have two. One kind of falls in personal development and one falls into women's health. So Mel Robbins is fantastic. Her social media is fantastic. Her book, The High Five Habit, really works on reframing your mindset around your personal appearance. So highly recommend. Listen to it on Audible because she reads it. And I just love the way that she has so much passion in what she does. And then Dr. Jolene Brighton is phenomenal for women's health. She talks all about women's health. She has a phenomenal book called Beyond the Pill. So anybody that has been on birth control, currently on birth control, considering birth control, like this book is chock full of all the information that you're not going to get at your doctor's office. And she just came out with a new book called Is This Normal? To talk about things like cervical mucus or your libido or your bowel movements and things like that, that maybe, again, are a little taboo to talk about in normal society.
Awesome. Who's that by again?
Dr. Jolene Brighton.
Okay. Yeah, I have definitely heard of that book before. Nice.
Yep.
And then lastly, so this podcast, Flow with the Grow, when you hear that, when you see that, what comes to mind for you? What does that mean for you?
So that I thought about that a little bit. What does that mean for me? And I think I envision a flower growing, first of all, when you tell me that. But then also challenging the ego and pivoting the way that we've done things over and over and over again, because society put us in this box and told us that this is what we need to do in order to achieve our results. But what if that doesn't apply to me? What if I need to challenge kind of my beliefs and the stories that I've created around that? And I need to really pivot and flow with something new, as much as my ego is going to tell me, no, this is wrong. And then I'm going to have this huge growth that happens from that.
Wow. I love that. Love that.
Yes, it's so great. Such a great name.
Thank you. Well, this has been awesome. We've talked a lot and I have learned a lot. So I just know listeners will also have learned a lot. So I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and everything. And I'm excited to just like keep up with you and your business and see where, the next step, where you take this down the road.
Same. So excited. And definitely let me know when you're ready to put this out. I'll put it in my newsletter. I'll link it on my website and it will be on my social media.
Yay. Yeah. So before I forget, so we had your website on there, Instagram. Is there anywhere else that you would send people to, or those two main?
Those are the two main. I am on Pinterest, so I do have some content on there. And TikTok, I've played around with. I don't know if TikTok's for me.
Yeah, it's I use TikTok as my personal social media outlet to do whatever. It's like I just do like random stuff. Like it is not health and fitness related at all. It's just fun because I like to do other fun stuff too.
Right.
Yes.
Love it.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much again, and we will be in touch.
Yes, this is so great. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Flow with the Grow. I'll see you next week for your daily dose of positivity and growth.